and addresses you folks. So get as soon as we get this howl going. 1, 2, 3. That wasn't very loud. One more. Hold those signs high. I'd like to introduce Rod Cumberland.
Thank you very much. First and foremost, I want to thank every person that's here today. Okay, my foul-weathered friends. No pun intended over there, birds. But I know that the weather was nasty today. Some of you traveled from long distances on terrible roads. I really appreciate that, and you did it on your own dime. And I know what it's like to travel around and say what you think on your own dime, so I really appreciate it. Thank you a lot. I had a dream back in 1984. My best friend's mom challenged me by saying, "What would you love to do every morning for the rest of your life?" And the answer came to me lightning fast. I wanted to work with deer. I wanted to study them, capture and collar them, learn all I could about them. That was my dream job. I put everything I had into that dream and was blessed to be working in my dream job, being the province's provincial deer biologist when I was 32 years old. The goal at that time was to grow the New Brunswick deer herd to levels that we saw in the 60s and the 80s. However, as we pulled all levers, and one of my colleagues is here, Gary Moore, and we pulled all levers we could, full throttle, and in 2007 we only harvested 1/3 of the deer we once had back in the glory days. More than that, many of our Crown land deer yards were vacant. People who do not know you typically always misunderstand you, and I'm being misunderstood right now. You don't just wake up one day and decide, I think I'd like to ruin my life and become a royal pain in someone's keister. I'm doing this because of the evidence. I'm all about data, research, and facts. I'm a scientist. I didn't start on this course as being a lobbyist or a radical. I was a 22-year dedicated government employee who was trying to find answers to questions. Questions that no one else had answers to, that no one else was looking into, and quite frankly, that no one else seemed to really care about. There was a few of us. The harder I worked on this, the more clear things became, and we somehow had lowered the carrying capacity for deer on Crown land, and most of the herd growth we witnessed occurred exactly where we didn't want it, in agricultural areas and urban centers. Being a moose hunter, I was fortunate enough to hunt moose almost every single fall. Moose hunters across New Brunswick will tell you firsthand, if a cut is full of moose before they spray, it's completely void of moose after it's sprayed. We witnessed this year after year. Scout an area, find lots of moose, and then if the area was sprayed, the moose were gone. And I know a lot of you know that. I'm speaking to the choir here, the Vern Jones. One advantage I had over a lot of people is I was able to fly the province every single fall. Not many other DNR employees, or anyone else for that matter, had that privilege, but I did. And I know what I saw. I know what I read. I know what the numbers show, and I know what the research says. I'm here because of the facts and the truth, and because I have the responsibility for my oath as a certified wildlife biologist to speak that truth. When I began to unravel the research on what was clearly lowering the carrying capacity, killing hardwoods by spraying glyphosate, I found that the research was divided. Some said spraying was somehow good for deer, and some biologists I knew would actually quote this stuff and say it was helpful. Yet everything we saw in the fall, during our winter flights, and the reams of plantation data at DNR, and also the emerging independent research, they all said the exact opposite. The hardwoods were gone, and so were the critters. I could go on, but you know the rest of the story. This is why you guys are here. I liken my position to that of Winston Churchill, where he found himself in 1939 persistently telling the House of Commons in London that a war was brewing. He was a lone voice. He was ridiculed and ostracized. He almost lost his job. However, almost a year to that day later, Germany invaded Poland, and all of a sudden the world woke up and realized that they had been lulled into peace by their politicians, short-sighted and self-serving politicians. We find ourselves in a similar position. Our politicians have also been lulled into a truce. If Health Canada says it's okay, then I guess it's okay. No one's amassing the research, no thinking for ourselves, no healthy scientific debate. While just south of us, the courts are awarding millions of dollars to cancer patients whose cancer is a direct result of glyphosate spraying. Through these proceedings, we now have the Monsanto Papers available online. Just Google the Monsanto Papers. Reams of evidence that the industry giant has done the same thing that's being done right here in New Brunswick, trying to cover up everything to keep the money flowing. From my perspective, we face three distinct battles. The first is my own battle for justice. You don't fire people for making kids show up on time and having them remove their ball caps. Today I can announce I've retained the expertise of the best defense lawyer who has represented whistleblowers across our nation, Paul Champ of Ottawa. Yesterday we filed suit for wrongful dismissal. Paul is extremely intelligent and fights hard for justice. He's an answer to prayer just when it appeared that there was no one left in New Brunswick that the long arm of intolerance had not touched. The second battle is a battle for the college. MRFS and MCFT were built on the strength and character of excellent men and women of integrity. They knew what it took to turn out the best technologists in North America. However, several years ago, some tiny spiders began spinning their little webs, and the web is quite interwoven. We need and must continue to call for an independent and completely transparent investigation into the affairs of the college and its Board of Governors. The third battle is where we're all needed, the battle for New Brunswick. The battle to reinstill our rights and freedoms. There must be an end to corporate welfare and undue influence from powerful and wealthy businesses on the functioning of civil service and politics. All three of these battles have come to be from the lack of accountability. Accountability, if you don't have it, the bullies wield their weight. Backroom politics continue and corruption ensues. When things are always kept hush-hush, whispered, and nothing comes out into the open, these tangled webs grow deeper. Fear grips the common person, and the culture of capture takes over. This battle is much bigger than me. I hope your coming here today has made that clear. We don't need just one guy standing up to take on the bully. We need everyone standing up and say, enough is enough. Why am I doing this? Well, it's time for confession. I must confess I have a problem. I have a huge problem. I have a problem being able to stomach lies, to see injustice without acting, and to watch people being taken advantage of. I've been like this as long as I can remember. Even back when we were kids. Kids would try to bully my little cousin, Joyce McKay, on the school bus, or my brother at school. Big kids or not, I was all in to stop the wrong. Whatever it took, no matter how big the obstacle. So here I am now, still doing the same thing that God has placed deep within my spirit, to stop the bully. To expose the lies and shed some light on the truth. And my friends, the biggest conglomeration of lies I have seen in quite some time is contained in the 359 pages of the Health Canada reevaluation of glyphosate. What a bunch of bull. Thank you. What inspires me to keep going? Thank you very much. First and foremost is my faith in a loving and almighty God. He has really seen us through these tough times, and things haven't been simple. Amen. I have a great family, and I can't thank them enough for their support and prayers. Thanks, guys. Woo! And the Iron Men, the men I look to for personal accountability and encouragement. You know who you are. Thank you. Good friends, take a look around. Look at the people beside you. This is what quality looks like. The calls, the messages, the kind words have been very encouraging, and thank you so much. Dad told me when I was headed off for work in my first full-time job at DNR, don't ever forget the little guy. I've lived my entire career with that in my mind. At this present time, we have never seen as much ignoring the little guy as we do right now. Little guy, you have the chance every 4 years to speak loudly. Futility is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. It's high time that we change things, little guy. Thanks. My first real boss was Bill Francis. He ran Valley Home Center in St. Stephen. He taught me that looking after the customer was job number one. Look after the customer and everything else looks after itself. Industry's forgotten all about this, and it's now every man for himself. It's not about you. It's not about your profits, your shareholders. It's about the customer. Us, the little guy. On the forestry file, the customers have spoken loudly and clearly several times in their call for less harvest, clean water, fresh air, private wood, and Acadia forests have been repeatedly ignored. We need to change the way our voices are heard. As a deer biologist, I always gauged whether I was on the right path or not by talking to our field staff. Not just one or two of them, but field staff across the province. And we have some of the best forestry and fish and wildlife technologists on the continent. Dedicated, intelligent, hardworking, and insightful. And no surprise, they were graduates of the old MCFD and MFRS. They call me routinely, stop by my office, even after I've been gone for 8 years, and keep encouraging me to speak the truth. Say what they have grown hoarse in saying over and over again. Guys and gals, I'm proud to call you my friends and colleagues. Keep up the good work. I also want to thank all of you once again so much for making the effort to come here today. Your support, your prayers, and your messages. This is far from over. Their plan is to outlast us. We must stay vigilant until change occurs.
Yes.
Finally, I want to thank Jerry Redmond. When I first started working for Jerry back in 1987, he had good reason to be skeptical of me. I had a lot of rough edges. I needed a few lessons in diplomacy. Charlotte County makes you tough. Now the man I looked up to for my entire career has become one of my biggest advocates. Jerry, I can't thank you enough for standing not just beside me, but even in front of me with courage and conviction. It's men like you that inspire guys like me. This is just the start. We need an investigation to shed some light into the many dark corners where silliness lurks. We need to stand strong and continue to fight. Thanks again for coming.
We're with you, Rod. Forestry bullies intimidate. Premier Higgs investigate.